you for taking the time to join me today. Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray, CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can focus on creating a bigger impact. Today, I want to discuss with you the important but sometimes overlooked topic of sales tax for nonprofit organizations. While many nonprofits focus on their mission, it's crucial to understand how sales tax rules apply to your organization. Compliance isn't just about avoiding penalties. It's ensuring that your organization remains in good standing with your state and avoids any surprises down the road. So, what is sales tax? Let's start with the basics. Sales tax is a consumption tax imposed by state and local governments on the sale of goods or services and is collected at the point of sale and remitted to the appropriate taxing authority. Generally, sales tax rules for nonprofits vary from state to state, and this is a state issue, not a federal issue. So your federal tax exempt status from income taxes does not automatically exempt you from the state sales tax. And like I said, sales tax vary from state to state. And I'm going to say this many times. So you really need to check with the state where you're at to determine what those rules are. And if you're operating in multiple states, you need to check the rules for every state that you're operating in. Now, the nice thing is that many nonprofits can get exemptions. And there are two types of exemptions. The first one is for purchases that you make. Sometimes it's called sales and use tax. When you make purchases for goods and services that are going to be used in your operations for your mission, you can request an exemption from sales tax. Now, some states have a blanket exemption, some states have an item by item exemption, but you can take advantage of this exemption. You will need to apply to obtain the sales tax exemption and get a certificate from your state. That means you're going to have to fill out a document, maybe pay an application fee. And then once you receive the certificate, you give that to your vendors when you're making purchases so that they know not to charge sales tax. And again, if you operate in more than one state, you may need have different sales tax exemption certificates for each state. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is when our nonprofits are making sales. So we are the ones providing the goods or the services and collecting the money from the customer. And most states do require that nonprofits collect and remit those sales tax for that. And fortunately, many of our credit card processing places like Square and Stripe, they will help us with that process. But we need to be collecting that sales tax for those fundraisers or that gift shop that we're running, or if we're in a state that charges for services, and we have to charge for our services, those as well. Once you collect that money, you're going to have to remit it to the state or the local government where that's required to be remitted. So again, you're going to have to register with the state. You're going to have to ask for a sales tax ID number, and you're going to have to be able to generally have an online account where you can file a report that says what your sales were, and also a place where you can remit your sales. Now, the frequency of this reporting and remitting the sales depends upon how much that you're collecting. So some states, if you've got a very low sales volume, will allow you to remit that once a year. Other states will be quarterly or monthly. You're just going to have to check. And again, you're going to have to look at every state that you make sales in. So a perfect example is, okay, I'm here in Indiana. nonprofits here have to collect and pay in sales tax. But what if an Indiana organization goes to another state for an event and we take t-shirts or memorabilia or other items to sell at that event in that other state? Well, we have to look at their state regulations. And I want to let you know that many states allow for a temporary sales location, which generally is like if you're selling in their state in person for less than 30 days, they don't require you to collect and remit sales tax if you're a nonprofit organization. So you want to check the sales tax regulations for those states where you're going. And usually just a quick search on the state's Department of Revenue website will help you there. Now, as I said, all of these regulations vary from state to state. Again, some have blanket exemptions, some have exemptions on certain types of purchases. So knowing, again, your state rules, if you're allowed a blanket exemption when you're making purchases, your certificate will state that. If you have only a certain type of purchase, then your certificate will state that as well. The other thing I want to recommend to you is that just because you have a sales tax exemption in your state for making purchases for like office supplies, you may not have the same exemption for your telephone services, your internet services, other utilities that charge sales tax, or even food and beverage taxes for an event. You're going to want to look into those as well. But those are a lot of times separate from the sales tax. Now, to register within your state or another state, you're going to have to go to the state's Department of Revenue. You're going to have to obtain the form that they require be completed for a sales tax exemption, and there may be a filing fee. Generally, it's pretty small, less than $100, but that's worth it for your purchases. Additionally, you're going to want to keep records of your purchases that you made that were exempt. You're going to want to keep records on the sales that you make, the sales tax that you collect, those kinds of things, because there could be an audit. Department of Revenue could come in and do a sales tax audit. So you want to make sure that you have all those records. So you want to make sure that those invoices reflect this is the purchase price to the customer, the sales tax collected, that all that adds up to the monthly sales tax that you reported and paid for that month. Just a few practical tips. You're going to want to stay up to date on your state's sales tax regulations, and that's pretty easy. A lot of times you can sign up for a newsletter of some sort that they'll send you. Here's updates for our state and state requirements. You're going to want to stay informed on law changes. And if you're just really unsure of what's going on, consult a tax professional or legal advisor who specialize in nonprofit compliance. The other thing I want you to do is educate your staff and your volunteers. Make sure everyone knows what the requirements are when making purchases, when making sales. That's when mistakes happen, is when people don't understand what they're supposed to do. So we want to make everybody aware of what's going on. And then I'm going to want to circle back to the audit. Keep detailed documentation of your tax exempt purchases, your taxable sales, and this will save you all kinds of stress if your organization is ever audited. So to recap what we've just talked about, sales tax laws are state specific. Not all purchases and sales are automatically tax exempt, and proper registration, documentation, and compliance are key. I encourage you to review your state's sales tax laws and ensure that your organization is compliant. And if you have doubts, seek out professional guidance. Now, if you have questions on this or any other topic, please put those in the comment section below. We always appreciate your likes, and I want to thank you for joining me today.